What's happening, everybody? Trey here, joined by my dad, Sean, and today, reactions to the classics. We are up to 1978 in our top 5 albums by year draft. A fun journey, Dad, as already the 70s are kind of waning down here. It's gone quick.
Yeah, it has gone quick. We started way back in 1965. If you haven't seen any of those videos, go check them out after this. Just a reminder of the way we do these things. Somebody gets the first pick. It's Trey this year. I get the second, third. He gets fourth and fifth. That's the way we do it. At the end, we're going to ask you for your top 5. We're also going to ask you who you thought won. So keep an eye on that. Trey, let's kick it off.
Well, man, this year, unlike a lot of years, there wasn't an album for me that just jumped out as the clear-cut number one.
There was for me, but yes.
But all that to say, man, I ended up landed on one of my favorite records in kind of the genre and of the era. It's going to be Blondie's Parallel Lines.
Great choice.
A pop new wave classic here, obviously led by the great Debbie Harry and company. Love the guitar melodies, especially throughout the record. And just it's so catchy, so easily accessible. I think you got some of Blondie's best tunes. Obviously, you have Heart of Glass.
Right.
You got Hanging on the Telephone one way or another. And then one of my favorites, 11:59, which doesn't get talked about as much as it should. But hey, I'm bringing that track up today.
Yeah, a couple of those songs, the first songs that I ever remember, being played on the radio and stuff. My clear-cut number one, and then I'm with you. The rest of them, are good, but not great. Springsteen, Darkness on the Edge of Town, 4th studio album. He didn't make an album for 3 years. He gets in this big argument with his former manager. He wants John Landau to be his manager. It's a long story. So he's making new music. Well, in that time, of course, you're collecting, you're writing, and you're picking out the best of the best. Badlands, Racing in the Street. Title track, one of my top 5 Springsteen tunes.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
a piano track of all things. You got The Promised Land. It's just fantastic. It falls between Born to Run and The River, so I think it gets lost sometimes. It shouldn't.
Yeah,
And it's got one of the great iconic album covers.
Yeah, man, Bruce just standing next to some wallpaper.
Looking uncomfortable as it can be.
Think would be in your grandma's house. Yeah, one of my favorites is Adam Raised a Cane, just so
really
so
good
powerful as well, man. So yeah, good pick right there.
Now, 2 through 5, you could put in a shuffler and just flick the button for me. But my second one's going to be Elvis Costello. I had last year's. I had him this year. I have him as well. This year's Model, second album. This year's Girl, Pump It Up, of course. It's the Village Voice album of the year, and they were a very prestigious publication back in the day. But it's more the same from his debut album, My Aim Is True. His first 2 albums are absolute fire. They're seamless. This one's great.
Yeah, man, I actually prefer this to My Aim Is True.
Really?
Yeah, I do. But like you said, it kind of keeps that spirit from the debut up. And I always love one of my favorite music quotes in general is when Elvis Costello said, "You have like your whole life to write your first record and then a year to write your next one."
Yeah, and that explains why most debuts are so good and the other ones aren't. Yeah, that's a great quote.
But hey, we're gonna keep it on the discussion of debuts. I know that Elvis wasn't a debut, but we're gonna go with one of my favorite artists of all time, the great Kate Bush, with her debut record, "The Kick Inside." It has a production here, Dad, from David Gilmour. He discovered her during the "Wish You Were Here" sessions, if I believe, back in '75 when she was just a teenager, and he was like, "Hey, we might have something there." A couple of these tracks were even cut as demos during that time, and she was only 19 when this thing released, man. So this has one of her biggest hits, which went to number 1 in the UK, which was the first time a female singer-songwriter topped the charts with a self-penned song in the UK, and that's Wuthering Heights, of course. Movin' and The Man with the Child in His Eyes are also excellent, as well as the title track itself, which closes it out. Just love Kate's delivery on this and artistry. Kind of get into that art pop, if you want to call it that, and this record here. So we wanted to show some love there, and I'm going to keep with the ladies and go with a punk record that has been maybe lost in the shuffle a little bit.
Never even heard of this group.
But it's the X-Ray Spex with Germfree Adolescents here, headed by a woman, which is, kind of rare whenever you're talking punk rock music. The great Polystyrene, a bombastic front woman whose energy is felt on, this entire record, every vocal in there. High octane and loud. This is a better punk album than I think a lot of the other classics of the period that get promoted and whatnot. Artificial Identity and the title track especially is one, man, you need to seek out. If you like that, you'll probably like the rest of this album.
All right, well, I'm going to go to my number 3. one of our former patrons, Peter, brought these guys to us, and man, I'm glad he did. We're going to go with the first album in a 3-album run they have here. The Jam, All Mod Cons, their third studio album. Of course, the iconic Down in the Tube Station
Love that song.
at midnight, but also, it's 12 songs, Trent. Usually, me and you are not big fans of long, albums or long songs, 12 songs on an album, many songs on an album, I should say. But this one's remarkably consistent. Paul Weller, fantastic. And
well, one of the great, I think, singer-songwriters of the era.
that we didn't really know anything about till we started doing this channel, but just a fantastic thing. And then an album that we recently did an album reaction to, the Rolling Stones, Some Girls, first album with the great Ronnie Wood. Got Miss You, When the Whip Comes Down, a great underrated song. The classic Beast of Burden. And then the punkish Shattered that ends the album. I think the Stones did the punk pretty well, but we hadn't had a Stone show up in quite some time.
Yeah.
Really good.
No, man, I remembered, doing that and really enjoying that record. And so I can't argue with either of your picks here. And I'm gonna close it out, man, with a couple different bands that have popped up at various times, either on our list proper or honorable mentions. It's gonna be Funkadelic with One Nation Under a Groove. I mean, just the name itself, it's gonna get funky
You're
up
in it,
here,
man.
baby. This is actually the best-selling and one of the most critically acclaimed Funkadelic records. And of course, you have the title track. You have Who Says a Funk Band Can't Play Rock. It's only 6 tracks, I believe, but George Clinton and company, man, with Funkadelic and Parliament, you're going to be getting some unbelievable instrumentation, and just the way they were able to blend funk with rock is so impressive. And kind of listening to a lot of their catalog up to this point, I do think they're one of the great American bands that just don't get brought up a lot, just since they weren't classic rock, so to speak, from the era. And gonna finish this off with a Big Star's third
There you
record.
go.
Third. It was actually recorded in '74, but the Alex Chilton, whose mental health and was declining at this point, and other members of the band just weren't too high on it, so it just kept getting pushed back. Finally came out here in '78. Some of my favorites are Thank You Friends, Nighttime, Take Care, Blue Moon, and I like a bit of that more somber edge to get the power pop that you're used to coming with Big Star. It's actually my favorite record by them.
Ah, wow, really, that's high praise. Really good pick. My last pick, Dire Straits, self-titled debut. Sultans of Swing, obviously iconic. It's the first song reaction we ever did of Dire Straits. 4 in the U.S., 8 in the U.K., so actually did better in the States. Got Down to the Waterline, Wild West, and Mark, starting to. There's just better stuff to even come. I won't get into that till a few years later, but fantastic album. Now we got some honorable mentions, Trey.
Yeah, man, and this year too, I think showed as we're getting to the end of the '70s, you got more punk and post-punk stuff. You got some world music, some country here. I like Willie Nelson, Stardust. I like The Only Ones debut. Devo coming on the scene. Are we not men? The answer: we are Devo. Chic was coming up in here. Wire, Chairs Missing. Tom Waits, Blue Valentine. Rush with Hemispheres, Talking Heads, second record. Steve Reich, Music for 18 Musicians, a wonderful instrumental as well. But yeah, man, 78. It seems like every other year, Dad, kind of goes from a really, really high year, like I thought 77 was, to a year that maybe you got to dig a little more, doesn't have as many like true bona fide classics as
but a
you
lot
expect.
of good albums. Yeah, exactly. A lot of good albums. We've done reaction and reviews of several of these albums. They'll be below. Just click on them. You can check them out. And remember, we want to know, who do you think won and what are your top 5? And if you'd like to support us in any way, the patrons keep this channel going. We have videos up every single day without fail, sometimes more than one. Check out the Patreon link below or the patron link on the end screen. 1979 is coming up.
Dude, yeah, gonna close out the 70s next week, y'all. Looking forward to it, and then the 80s are on the horizon.
They are, man.
I already hear the hard glam rock.
My decade, baby.
Going,
My decade.
But anyways, y'all. Until next time, thanks for watching. Happy listening, and we will see you.